many physicians are in dire need of respirator masks. They're known as the N95 respirator masks that 3M makes in specific. And luckily, Donald Trump did invoke the Defense Production Act in order to increase the production of these desperately needed masks. He invoked it last night. Okay, so that's more incompetence from Donald Trump, especially when it comes to an issue that's been raised over and over again for a long time now. Okay, now the text of Trump's order issued directs acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf to use any and all authority available under the act to acquire from any appropriate subsidiary or affiliate of 3M Company the number of N95 respirators that the administration determines to be appropriate. So look, this is good news. Unfortunately, he invoked the Defense Production Act a little too late, but at least he invoked it. It's the bare minimum at this point. But here's one other part of it that actually makes this story a little more complex. So in its statement, according to CNBC, the company said the Trump administration also requested that 3M cease exporting respirators that we currently manufacture in the United States to the Canadian and Latin American markets. Okay, so there was a fascinating response from the CEO of 3M, and I hadn't really thought about how actually following through with what the Trump administration wants here could backfire in very terrible ways. But Cenk, I wanted you to jump in before we go to the CEO's response.
Yeah, look, I think the CEO is totally full of crap, and I think he has been from day one. So there is some merit to his response that you're going to read in a sec. But overall, of the two parties here, my loathing for Donald Trump, I think, is fairly well known, right? And the fact that I think he's one of the dumbest people in the country is fairly well known. The way that he did this was negligently late, and of course, as usual, in a childish tweet. Having said all of that, between Trump and the 3M CEO, who's right? Trump is. The CEO for 3M is worse. He could have been manufacturing these a long time ago, but he held out for liability protection that they've been asking for a long time, having nothing to do with the coronavirus, because I don't know if their products are defective, but apparently they think they are. And so they didn't want to face lawsuits if people get sick. So they're like, nope, I'm not going to produce anything unless you give me liability protection.
So let me jump in, because there's definitely a lot of truth in what you're saying. They've been trying to do away with certain regulations when it comes to these masks for a long time. And I want to be specific about the regulations and what they entail. So they make different masks based on the job that various people are doing. So there are regulations ensuring that the masks provided to doctors fit a certain way in order to protect them, but they also create N95 masks that are used for construction workers. And so the requirements for the construction worker masks are also different. What they've been trying to do for a long time before this pandemic is essentially do away with those regulations so they're not held liable in the future if there are issues with those masks. Now, with this pandemic, they tried to also get rid of those regulations because they wanted to be able to, according to them, produce more of these masks without worrying about it being a liability if they don't follow the regulations that are on the books. So there's definitely truth in what you're saying. But at the same time, if you're in the middle of a crisis, I just think Trump should have taken action immediately, right? So let's do what it takes to get those masks produced ASAP. That includes maybe rethinking the regulations and also, of course, invoking the Defense Production Act, which Trump was asleep at the wheel on until last night.
Okay, so let me explain what should have happened, okay? So first of all, they should have gone to 3M on January 22nd. As soon as we had the first case, I would have asked the scientists, it spread like wildfire in China. Is there a chance it's going to spread like wildfire here? They would have immediately told you yes. And then you wouldn't have known all the things that you know today back then. But the scientists already knew a lot, right? And the very first thing that you'd want is test kits. We got to get test kits. We had almost none in the country. Total unbelievable, grotesque incompetence not to order those test kits immediately and get him here. Number two thing you need is masks and protective equipment, including gloves. Obviously. So they don't do that at the end of January. They don't do it for all of February. Finally, Mike Pence gets his ass down to 3M headquarters on March 5th, okay? There, the CEO of 3M says to him, hey, I can make 100 million of these a month, which is what we need, right? He says, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just continue making 5 million for medical reasons, and I'm going to continue to make the other ones for industrial reasons. Now, if I'm Mike Pence, here's my reaction. Number one, no, that's not going to happen, and I'm not going to leave here until, if you tell me you can make 100 million medical masks, that's what you're going to do, okay? And so, but he asks him, and I would have asked him too, why not? And my guess is, okay, and I don't know what Pence learned. I don't know if he bothered to ask him this part. Number one, why do you continue to insist on making industrial masks when we just told you it's an absolute emergency and we need, this is not January anymore, it's not February anymore, now we're in March, everybody knows, right? We need all those medical masks. My guess is they make more profit from the other masks. And then they're still exporting masks. Yes, Latin America needs it. Yes, Canada needs it. Other places need it. Yes, there's a humanitarian need. But our outbreak was already shaping up to be gigantic, and it turns out it was gigantic, and we do lead the world. We need the masks. So you need it. My guess is, why do they want to keep shipping it overseas? Because they have contracts, and they probably make more profit on that. Money. And then he says, oh, well, look, I'm not going to do it unless you give me liability protection that I've been asking for all this time, having nothing to do with coronavirus. Money. No.
Yeah.
No. On March 5th, Mike Pence should have said, you're going to make these goddamn masks, and you're going to get me 100 million masks. Otherwise, I'm using the Defense Production Act tomorrow. You're going to make the goddamn masks. Instead,
no,
he's
Cenk,
like, oh, yes, sir, Mr. CEO, sir, you're my donor, sir, yes, sir. Oh, yes, you do whatever you want, sir. And finally, they get their ass around to doing it. And that's why I'm telling you today, Trump is right and the CEO is wrong, because I'm fair and I'm honest. But goddamn, they're late.
Yeah, they are. They are late. And you do make a devastating point, Cenk, because I was thinking, yeah, I mean, look, we're in the middle of a crisis. So let's just, if we need those masks made, yeah, let's give them what they want when it comes to the liability regulations. But your devastating point is we need medical masks. So halt production on everything else and make the medical masks. That way you're not worried about liability because you're making the exact masks that we need. And they actually follow the regulations that are there for a reason, right? Those regulations are there to ensure that the masks are actually effective in helping doctors and nurses protect themselves when they're treating, patients who have a virus. So that's a really good point. But go ahead, Cenk.
Anna, one more thing. Look, I know that they have a bunch of industrial masks they can convert over. No problem. Convert them too. Maybe that's quicker. Great. Convert them. You're worried about liability. You don't. If I'm Pence, I say, yeah, in this, I'm not going to give you blanket liability for the rest of time and for your past mistakes. But in this case, you want liability protection, we'll give it to you. And in fact, the federal government did. They issued a regulation saying, don't worry, if there's any liability in this case, the federal government will take on that liability and not 3M. That actually was the right thing for the federal government to do because I don't have time for 3M's goddamn lawyers. And if they take one more day, I'll have the lawyers arrested, do the Defense Production Act, and have them make those goddamn masks. But okay, fine, we already gave you that. No, then 3M, in their infinite greed, said, nope, even though you already gave me the regulation that I want it for the future as well. And I'm not going to act until Congress passes a law. And that took several more weeks. And yes, of course, the Republicans gave them what they wanted, blanket immunity for the rest of time. Because this is all about 3M's profits. Because what we did with creating the stock market and public corporations is we built a greed machine. And it will not stop. And it will mow down everything in its path to maximize profit. So it doesn't matter if hundreds of millions of lives are on the line. Maximize profit. Otherwise, I'm not making a single mask. And that's what they did. They should have broken that CEO's back proverbially well over a month ago and have him doing those masks. I don't know how many lives were lost because the CEO was worried, hey, look, if I don't make maximum profit here, I'll get fired later and I'll lose my multi-million-dollar job. So I got to just crush the American people for longer and longer and longer to maximize my profit. That's what he did. Let's just be honest about it.
So there's one other component real quick, Cenk, that I feel like we do need to discuss, though, because it has to do with what 3M is threatening could happen if they cease exports to Canada and Latin American countries. The company, in a statement, said, ceasing all export of respirators produced in the United States would likely cause other countries to retaliate and do the same, as some have already done. If that were to occur, the net number of respirators being made available to the United States could actually decrease. This is the opposite of what we and the administration, on the behalf of the American people, both seek. So, I mean, that's an interesting argument. I would like to see actual numbers and evidence of that. But, you know, and I don't know specifically in the case of 3M, but what I do know, just to kind of buttress your point, Cenk, is based on multiple reports, including a great piece written by Li Fong at The Intercept, you're right in that a lot of these medical companies, medical supply companies, have been making deals not with hospitals abroad, not with, you know, public officials abroad, but with private companies abroad. They've been entering these contracts and selling to private companies in foreign countries. And so there is some question about a profit motive there. And at the end of the day, the people who get screwed are average citizens, both here in the United States and in other countries. So
in this case, the problem is everyone involved is either a crook or an idiot. So it's impossible to know. So if you had a functioning government, then you could trust that they've done the calculations on it. And they've had all this time now about 2.5 months. You'd think someone in the massive United States government would have said, hey, how many masks do we export? How many do we import? If we import more masks than we export, then we don't want to piss off our trading partners, because then we'll have net less masks in the country. And can we look at Thailand that produces a lot of masks? I'm just saying as an example. I don't know that particular country does. But if it were the case, Thailand produces a lot of masks, but Vietnam doesn't, or reverse it. It doesn't matter, right? Well, maybe we could make a deal with Thailand, but not with Vietnam. You would have made all of these calculations. And in a situation like this, you actually would have been fairly crass about it, because I need masks to protect my own people. And if it turns out I'm going to send less masks to Thailand, this is a very, very, very rare situation where that's the decision you got to make. But no one made that calculation in the United States government, because we didn't elect competent leaders to run a government. We elected reality show hosts to run a circus. So now that we have a serious pandemic on our hands, we don't know what to do with the guy who walks on glass, and the bearded lady, and the carnival barker, and the clown. They're like, okay, where should the clown go? The clown shouldn't go anywhere, because he shouldn't be in government. So do I know import or export more masks? No. Does anyone know? No. So it's possible that 3M is right, that we import more. Do I trust 3M? Hell no. 3M doesn't care. And by the way, I'm not saying this about like that 3M is particularly evil or their CEO is. No, they're all replaceable. They're widgets. We've created a system with public corporations where they're all must, by law, maximize profit. The only thing they're allowed to do is be greedy. So even when so many people's lives are on the line, the CEO goes, yes, but how am I going to make a buck? It's about me and my company and my shareholders making money. I don't care about your lives. And that's the system we created. So even if you took out that CEO, you'd put in another CEO who's just as vicious. And if he wasn't that vicious, his board would fire him and say, oh my God, in the middle of a pandemic, you did not maximize our profit. Guaranteed.
That's why it's ridiculous when people say that, you know, you don't want government to take control of things like healthcare, because if you have a serious situation like a pandemic, companies are going to step up and do kind things out of the goodness of their hearts. That's not the way things work, and we're seeing it in real time.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.